In this lecture, we talk about life advice, pillars to success, and our own life experiences. Enjoy.
Look, I'll give you one in each different category of life because I don't want to say like, oh, all three pillars combined makes one goal. Or nah, like if you take each of the different pillars of self-improvement, I can't speak on finance because I'm broke. So look, we got spiritually, mentally, physically. Well, we'll take out spiritually and we'll add like socially. What you need to realize is when you're out and about in the world of social pillar and what and things of that nature, you need to actually put yourself out there and actually go in and actually put work in. Because social skills, you may read books, you may like do all this research about social skills, but at the end of the day, what you need to understand is that
Hey, you watching this video. There's 70% of you watching this video right now that are not subscribed. Here's the proof right here. So if you're one of those 70% of people, go subscribe right now and show your appreciation and practice gratitude by subscribing to this channel and supporting me. And if you're not subscribed, it's okay. You can rectify this mistake and sub right now. Thank you. Now, go enjoy the video.
social skills are a skill. It's something that you need to go out and practice. Apply the things you've learned, things that you've acquired, and put it into practice. Because what I did, a mistake that I made for so long was, I read How to Win Friends and Influence People. I watched these YouTube videos. I read The Art of Charisma. I did all of this shit. But the thing is, I never went out into the world and used these skills. I never took what I learned, applied it to life, which also kind of applies to another lesson, which is actually applying what you learned. If you don't apply the things that you've learned, the practices, whatever you gain from these lectures, these videos, these books, if you don't apply them to your life, you're wasting your time. You need to go ahead and apply them, see what works, see what doesn't, and then reflect upon it. Now, when we go to the pillar of fitness, the main thing that I realized was I wasn't working hard enough. And that doesn't just mean like pushing myself in the gym. I wasn't working hard enough to get into a calorie surplus. I wasn't working hard enough to research more. I wasn't working hard enough to learn more. There's so many different parts of working hard in fitness, not just pushing yourself in the gym, although that is very important. Push yourself hard to sleep more, push yourself hard to work out harder, and push yourself harder to get into that calorie surplus. Mentally, honestly, I never really had mental health issues. I can't lie. But the thing is, one of the biggest things was not actually going ahead and doing deep journaling to its most full potential. Because when you actually go deep and delve as deeply as possible within deep journaling, you start to uncover parts of yourself that you never knew were there. You see what was not seen before, and allows you to discover aspects of yourself that you never knew were there. So that's the few lessons that I've acquired over the few years of self-improvement.
Three lessons. My biggest three lessons, I think, in my journey. So fundamentally, this is all personal to me. Whoever relates to this or resonates with it, maybe you learn a thing or two. One thing that used to drive me massively was my desire to be accepted by everybody. And still to this day, sometimes it comes up. That's a deep rooted insecurity of mine. And specifically delving into that, I found myself, especially wanting to be accepted by members of the opposite sex. I always sought out female recognition and validation. Now, one thing that I want to talk about very quickly is the concept of you being the very thing that you attract. You are what you attract, right? I'm sure we've all heard that expression, or you are the average of your five friends, for example. Now, you take what you're feeling internally, your mentality, your emotional field, your views on life, that internalization becomes your external projection, and you will begin to attract whatever it is that you are internally feeling. What we feel internally and what we project externally essentially means that you look for those things. For example, I came out of a really bad breakup, which is what got me onto self-improvement, right? Which is what got me into my journey, more or less. And I started to discover the more like radicalized And Spear and I've had many conversations about this before. The radicalized red pill culture. And it's more like turning into black pill culture, which is the belief that, all women are evil users and they are to be used as tools and they are good for very little more. And the whole concept of, all the good women are gone, basically, which is ironically, if you look at all the modern day radical feminists out there, they all say, I want to be able to just do what I want, act how I want, sleep with whoever I want, dress how I want, but I don't want to be objectified. I don't want to be seen as somebody who's giving a negative impression on society. I don't really care, but we're all the good men. My lesson from that is you have to put the work into yourself and you really need to figure out who you want to be. You can listen to all of us. You can choose not to listen to all of us. You can consume as many videos on YouTube, sources on Reddit, whatever you want to go into, and dive as deep down the rabbit hole as you want. Fundamentally, you need to understand who you want to identify as an individual. And when you make that decision, formulate your own opinions, because it's so easy to be led astray by the self-proclaimed gurus out there. I would say become your own master first through the concept of self-development. And that's a very broad aspect. Like Paarth said just now, he touched on a few topics like fitness, mental health, and socialization. And those are very big elements to self-improvement because we are all social creatures. My second point, and I will talk on mental health here because I have had experiences with mental health. It may be a bit of an echo chamber because Hamza has said this, but again, there's a reason why, there's like cliche advice that's given there. The reason why it's cliche is because it's been said so many times because there's truth behind it. You cannot make any progress with anything, especially working on yourself, if you do not have your mental health at the core intact. What I mean by that is having a balance with your mental stability. You need to bring yourself to a state where you can at least process the good and bad, right? And be able to take that and just take it as it is and not let it sort of swing you like a pendulum, going from like extreme positives to then extreme negatives. I myself have experienced extreme bouts of depression down to the point where I was suicidal at one point. And then I've also been on extreme highs where I felt like I was indestructible. Now, this is the duality of the mind and the ego. So this is like a two-pronged thing. My advice on how to get your mental intact is, well, yeah, they say, oh, just meditate, bro. I'm going to give you something a little bit more tangible and something that's systematic. The first part of it is, yes, journal. But when you journal, start by giving 3 points, right? 3 things that you are grateful for within your day. And then state the reason why. Simply stating what you're grateful for is not enough, because when you write down on paper what it is you're grateful for and why, you are translating that same energy that you would use in like your little mental labyrinth. You're using that same energy to translate the thoughts into the action of writing, scribing the words onto paper, and then giving yourself the reasons for it. For example, like mine could be, I'm grateful that the sun was shining today because it gave me the opportunity to dress nicely when I went out. And because of that, I had a great social time with my family. That's me already acknowledging something that I'm grateful for. And what that does is it mentally reprograms you to start looking at life in a more positively charged manner. But also, it keeps you in the balance. And when you're kept in the balance, you're able to take the negative and the positive and just literally leave it there in those boxes. It's called compartmentalization. So your mind is no longer just this one big like mesh of thoughts. That's why I say start by giving gratitude for at least 3 things and state your reasons why. The other part of it is spirituality. And a big aspect of spirituality is being able to bring your mental state to a point where you can drown out the noise. And the best way to help yourself get there is to, 1, enable blue light filters, right? Turn your phones completely off, turn all your screens off, and light a candle in like a dark room, turn off all unnatural lighting, and just focus on the flame and allow your mind to zero in on that. That brings you into the meditative trance. The second point is mentally get yourself ready, mentally prepare yourself, mentally fortify yourself One of my expression, my motto is win the war with yourself one battle at a time. And the first battle, probably the most important battle, is the battle in the mind, because that is literally the epicenter of how you carry yourself in life. That is where self-esteem comes from. That is where mental projection comes from. That is where your thoughts on internalization and external projection come from. That's your driver. Your heart is not your driver. Your heart is literally just a mechanism that allows your vessel to flow. Your mind is what enables you to do the things that you do. My final point would be, one thing that I've also learned is that the concept of self improvement, again, is such a broad subject. It affects us all in different ways. In order for you to elevate yourself, you must separate yourself. And what I mean by that is, if you are currently hanging out with a group of friends who think the aspect, like the perfect idea of socialization is binge drinking, smoking weed, doing drugs, trying to hook up with all the baddies from your year group or whatever it is, or your peer group, or just hook up with random girls, and that doesn't resonate with you, you need to at least distance yourself, if not cut them out. Because it's true, you are a product of your environment. And in order to bring yourself out of whatever rut that you're feeling yourself in, which many of us do, you need to quite literally cut it away. It's like cutting away the gangrene limb before the infection spreads to other parts of your body. And then the sort of subsection to this aspect is comparison is the killer of your self-development. Every person, all of you who are listening right now, you are all individuals within your own right, even if it's something minor. Okay, it could be that you grew up in a different background. Perhaps you're culturally different. Maybe your political agendas are slightly different than ours, for example. Maybe you think this whole lecture is bullshit. Within itself just makes you a different person. So why would you try to compare yourself? And I say this with a smile on my face, by the way, because I'm the first person who will start comparing himself to the likes of, say, Paarth, for example. When I look at his YouTube shorts getting so many views, and I'm like, what could I be doing to improve mine? Or I'll have a conversation with Spear, and I'll hear him just rattle off something so eloquently, and I'll think to myself, I wish that I could have my speech flow, my dialogue flow intact the same way that his. And maybe to you guys, that's how I come across. But I want you to understand something. You are your own worst enemy in your head, because you have that little voice in your head. You have that little scientist, right, with his lab coat on and clipboard, analyzing your every thought, analyzing your every like micro adjustment, every little micro action you do. If your blood pressure even raises or lowers when you're reacting to something, it takes it all down. And from there, we build our comparisons. That comparison right there kills your drive. That comparison then backs you into a corner. You cannot afford to do that if you want to win the war with yourself. At the end of the day, guys, it's you versus you. Comparison is the killer of your drive, and everything that you do should be for you. You're all individuals for a reason. Do not become a carbon copy of somebody else.
So essentially, my case is kind of like unique compared to most of the people who I've seen around in communities like this one. So I kind of had like the normie upbringing, which would be I didn't like go straight from, let's say, I'm finished like elementary school, I'm going into like high school and stuff, and I didn't like stumble upon, well, a lot of the like younger generation now, they find self-improvement. It's like all over the place, pretty much like mainstream and stuff. They join these communities and they kick it off, or like if you're unfortunate, you find something like a black belt community, and then you like fall down that dark dingy hole. But for me myself, I kind of just like went into degeneracy like straight after. Like I went into high school, like a few like years of just attending the parties, attending like the impromptu outside like raves and stuff, doing all messing around with like some drugs, doing all the bad stuff, messing around with girls, getting intimate, if you will. So it kind of gave me the, like, obviously there's not like a lot of good to take away from that, but it gave me what I feel like good enough experience, I guess, when it comes to like handling people. And it got me out of my shell, because I realized like a lot of people, they're mostly like introverted. I hear a lot of people asking the question of how can I make friends? I'm pretty lonely. I don't know how to communicate with people. Their social skills are lacking. Most people think like all of these books that get suggested to improve your like social skills that it's gonna help, and it will. But the best way and the best thing that you can do, like I'm not like going to say like what I learned from like the rep because I didn't really like learn anything pretty much because my life was already in a good place. I was already like doing good at school, doing good in uni, competing. I had the body. I was like pretty much. I had a good upbringing to say it again and to repeat that again. So as like if you were to take all of this away from me, like currently, like in my current life and currently where I am, like I can like I'd still be going, I'll still like meet my targets most likely. So I was pretty much set on that. But just going back to what I was saying before when it came to like this community, it's something that I wish I had anyway, because having those people who are like very committed to grinding, very committed to improving, and like they're taking action instead of always dreaming but never acting. And I feel like that's something that's just plagued society as a whole, because it's very easy for us to like get on the high horse and have the like condescending outlook on what we would consider like normal people. Like they're not acting, they're not taking action, they're not taking initiative. So we have to be better than them because we're on self-improvement, But like we always realize that we're not too far apart from them. And there's little separating us. So I like from the onset, I just never like developed the ego. I never like hopped on the I'm on self-improvement, everyone's beneath me like mentality, which I was grateful for. And that's like pretty much the main takeaway I'll tell to people is just to not develop that no matter like where you're coming from, like just be level-headed, be humble, have the humility to realize that on your own path, you're on your own journey, and all of these other people, you might not know, like they even like it could be like in a week, they might just like have an epiphany, their like perspective might just turn around, and they might just hop on the grind, and all of a sudden they're better at you than what you were doing for longer than them. So you just have to be prepared for stuff like that and realize that we're all on different like like what Shravan was saying before, where like we're all on different like aspects, the comparison, the constant comparison and stuff. We're all at like different areas, we're all at different stages of the race. But it's important to pace ourselves adequately and stick to our own race plan and never falter and never attempt to completely emulate in the way where you're just like you're completely mimicking someone else, trying to be just like them. You should strive to have the individuality. You should strive to have the uniqueness. You should strive to set yourself apart from other people and to be unique, to have your own point of view, your own belief system, and not to fall into the narrow minded point of view that a lot of people in these communities have. And I've seen it's just something that's I kind of came in. I never like I won't consider myself a red pillar. I won't consider myself a part of the community. I kind of just came in. I took what I like or liked, and then I implemented that into my life. But I never hopped on all of the like I guess philosophy of like what was being said before about like women and stuff, all that deep stuff. It just wasn't for me. I just like said, okay, meditation has its benefits for me. Journaling has its benefits for me. I wasn't doing these things before, but like I can see the good in them, so I do them now. And I never got too invested into these pills. I never studying them down to the last molecule and the last very tiny nook and cranny of all sorts of concepts, because most of it is just like irrelevant. Most of it is just semantics. And at the end of the day, it's not going to help you in the practical aspects of your life, where it all goes out of the window. All the planning, all the prep, all the preparation doesn't mean anything when you're in the heat of the moment in a social situation, which no amount of black pill theory crafting and prep time can prepare you for any like social situation. Like it can help you up to an extent. And same with all of these books, like How to Win Friends and Influence People, which I recently read. It's a very good book, and it obviously like teaches you how to have social comportment, how to not like not how to not succumb to bursting out with emotion and how to just keep your calm and how to be a very likable individual in a social setting. A lot of this is not completely, it should serve as a guide but not as a crutch. So you should be able to hold your own in these settings. And just overall, just to wrap things up, remember, before, you're not a red pillar, you're not, first and foremost, you're yourself, whatever your name is, that's who you are. And you buy into these beliefs, but you're not just some like mindless goon who lives by these books or lives by these principles without like thinking things through, without having the open-minded approach and open-minded view of other people who aren't also on this way of life. So
what I want to focus it all about, no matter, like, we can always dive into the deeper segments, the deeper aspects of life, like your fitness, your social skills, your this skill, your that skill, this element, that element. I want to take a step back and look at it holistically. That means looking at your worldview. When I say worldview, what I mean is two people can look at the exact same event and come to two very, very different conclusions. For example, right now, very topical in the US, gun violence. People see that there's gun violence, and one half say that's a reason to get rid of guns. And another group might say, no, that's a reason that everyone should have guns so that you can defend yourself. Two people look at the exact same event and come to two completely different conclusions because of their worldviews. What I want everyone here to do is take a lot of time. It's not something you can do in 2 minutes. Take a lot of time, sit back and actually think about your worldview. Think about why you perceive things the way you do. For example, in a hypothetical, if you grow up thinking that the color green is the best color, that's why leaves are green. Grass is green. Go out and touch grass. If you grew up thinking that green is the best color because everyone told you that green is the best color, you would naturally believe, without questioning it, that green is the best color. But why? Okay, my mom, my dad said green is the best color, so it's the best color. My elders in the village, they say green's the best color, so green's the best color. What do you mean green's not the best color? That's stupid. Of course green's the best color, you would say. To someone in a different village who believes that blue is the best color. And for them, they would think, yeah, of course blue is the best color. Everyone around me says blue is the best color. Think critically, right? I know everyone here is at a different point in life. Some of you are young as 12 and 13. Some of you are old, old like me. We grew up using, with our experiences, with our upbringing, to have a certain point of view. I want you to challenge that point of view. Think about what that point of view is. And I'm being deliberately vague here. Like, what point of view on what? Could be anything. This is something that, it's not something that you do in one instance, but it's something that you should do repeatedly. Ask yourself why you think certain things. I have my most recent video is on that, about how the content that you consume shapes who you are. You are the average of your 5 closest friends or something like that. But these days, we don't even interact with our friends in person. We do everything through a digital medium, whether it's our phones, our computers, our laptops, our tablets. Everything is done digitally. That means our digital interactions, minute as they are, shape what we think and how we think. Think about that. Really, really, really think about that. What got me started on all of this was, like I said in the introduction, I was bullied a lot as a kid, and my worldview did not match what I saw in reality. What I mean by reality is I was bullied a lot, and I was told to believe that if I treat everyone with kindness, if I was nice to them, that they would stop bullying me. But the opposite happened. My worldview was challenged from a very, very young age. That's what got me into all of this psychological stuff, thinking about how people interact. And this, of course, leads into social skills. I have a worldview of how people will react because I learned about these. No, I wouldn't call them hacks or anything, and this is just more of a guideline. But how to talk to people. This is not a book that I've read, although I'm sure there are plenty of books on this. This is from my own personal experience. I formed my current worldview through hypothesis testing, the scientific method. You come up with an idea. Let's say, oh, I think that all girls would like it if I slapped it in the face. Then you go into real world and you test that idea. You slap a girl in the face, see what happens. Don't actually do that. But if you did, you would see that girls don't like being slapped in the face. So you stop that. You reformulate your hypothesis. Perhaps girls like it when you give them flowers. So you test that hypothesis. You give the girls flowers. Oh, they seem to like it. So you think, okay, this is going somewhere. But then upon further analysis, if you keep giving the girl flowers, they come to expect it and it doesn't have the same effect anymore. So then you go back to the drawing board, reformulate your hypothesis. What is it about the flower giving that was the positive results in the first place? It's not the actual act of giving flowers. It's the act of giving something that tells them that you're thinking of something. And then you reformulate that. Perhaps what girls are attracted to is an act of dominance, something alpha, right? We keep talking about alpha, 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 alpha. What are they attracted to? Alpha. Okay, what's alpha? Oh, does that mean I have to bash someone up in front of the girl? Let's try that. Get into a fight. Don't actually get into a fight. That's stupid. But you would see that through at whatever point in life you are, whether you're 13 or 33, you will continuously reformulate your worldview. And worldview is very broad, right? Because like I said in the start, you can break that down into what is the best way to approach a girl. Social skills. How do I talk to a stranger? It doesn't have to be a girl. How do I, for example, bodybuilding? There was a period of time where everyone was training to failure because that was the way to train. And then there was a period of time where everyone was doing sets of 1 to 5. No one did anything heavier. And then there were a period of time where everyone was doing sets of 20 to feel the burn. We go through these phases. We, as scientists, whether deliberately or not, whether you recognize yourself as a scientist or not, you go through these hypothesis testing phases. You formulate a plan. You formulate an idea of how you think the world works. Then you go and test that idea. Really, this is what cold approach is, right? This is how you develop your cold approach skills, your social skills, financial skills even. You come up with an idea, muster up the courage, you go out and test that idea. Think about your worldview. Think critically about your worldview. I'm not saying this as some tinfoil wearing controversial or what's that word? Conspiracy theories. Oh, the government trying to trick you. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that as think critically, because even though for most people, your parents want the best for you, what they say might not. It might be, but it also might not be the best for you because they grew up in a different era. Back then, perhaps doing XYZ was the best course of action, but now, probably not. There are so many things that I can go into regarding worldview. Formulate your own.
In my opinion, I think is 1% better every single day for a whole year means would be 37 times better than you were at the beginning of the year. Isn't that that's the main thing that I stuck to? It's just it's crazy. And I know I say I don't see much change, but it's it'll add up over time. Like the whole idea of compound interest and all that, especially when you invest in yourself, is I guess realizing that, knowing to take a break because it doesn't mean you lose everything. And I've gone to the place where it's I burned out and I'm trying to keep on going because it's no, I'm gonna lose everything. If I miss this day of workout, that means I lose my gains and all that. But it's fine to take a break.
Nah, bro, we
Nah, it's
chilling.
well said, it's
Nah,
well
bro.
said, bro.
Hey, yeah, well said, man. And hey, Josh, remember, if you say you can't speak, then you're gonna have trouble speaking. But if you say you can speak, it's gonna be a lot easier for you, my boy.
No, I just that's how I do things. I make fun of it. I'm just give me a moment. I can't speak. Let the people laugh or something, and then we can just get back to the topic. That's just how I do
Why?
things.
Yeah, why though?
Why do you do it?
Yeah, why would you do that though?
Because it diffuses the tension for everybody. It's just
But
it's
what
not they're
tension was there in the
awkward.
first place?
People are oh my god, he can't speak, and it's just I make fun of it and I prove that I'm comfortable with not being this person who's perfectly eloquent all the time,
Look at you. You're perfectly eloquent right now, defending yourself.
Yeah,
That's good.
exactly.
We're really trying to psychoanalyze Josh right now.
Yeah,
It's
bro.
crazy, Uncle Lawrence.
Struggle, endure, contend, for that is the sword of one who defies death, I guess. Basically, just keep struggling on. A lot of this is going to suck, and a lot of it is going to be hard, but maybe that's kind of the point. Like we gotta just keep struggling on because we're all gonna make it. We just gotta keep going. And even though you really don't want to, and you're like, fuck, man, I'm like, I've had this, like I've had it. Don't want to do any more of this shit. Shit is hard.
Man.
Shit is hard for a lot of us. I've been through some shit. I'm not gonna say I've been through like the ringer, but I think I've been through quite a bit. And it's like the only way out of it is just to keep going, even though you really don't want to, even though you kind of just want to call it. You want to be done. You just really want it to stop hurting.
I'm actually against that. I think that, yes, it is hard, but it's kind of your perspective on if it's a struggle or not. Or, oh, am I going to like endure this? Or are you going to face this challenge and pull through? I think it's kind of how you view yourself. It can be like, oh, this is like super difficult and I'm struggling, but I'll make it. Like that's assuming that, yes, everything you face is like, it's, oh my gosh, the odds are 100 to 1. It's going to be so difficult, but you'll pull through. Or you can be like, hey, I got this in the bag that no matter what comes at me, I'll deal with it. And that I'll push through no matter what. So it's kind of like the story dictates like how your life is. If you create a story for yourself, and I guess this was going to be my one piece of advice, is that your story dictates your life and it dictates your future. If your story about yourself is that you've been through so much and that, because of this happened to me, this happened to me, this happened to me, that I can't have this life that I want to, or that because, this person said this to me and this happened to me, I can't do it. Right? Those limiting beliefs have been created by your story. So what does that tell you? If you can't do something, it's because you're stopping yourself. It's because XYZ thought in your brain is like, hey, you want to go to the gym? No. This is why you can't. Here's why. This. It's because of the story you create for yourself. So what I try telling people, and what I hear a lot from people, is their stories. Their stories on why they can't do things. But I don't really hear stories on why people can do things. Like I want to hear people say, well, I can reach my goals because I'm committed and because I have such a passion and drive and desire to push through. Like that should be your story, that you've went through so much, but guess what? You're grateful for it. You learned from it. There was positivity throughout the whole thing. And at the end of that, that phase or that era or that arc, that you can say, God damn, that was a beautiful arc, regardless of what happened in it. Because that gives you the flame and the fire to go and push through the next one. You create your story. What story are you going to create for yourself so you can have the life you want? If the story you create is that you've been through the dumps and, life is just not going your way, life always happens to you, that why is all this happening to me? This sucks. And then, this sucks, and you use negative language, negative energy. It's going to bring you down. Of course it's going to bring you down. If you have something happen to you, or, maybe let's say you don't hit a PR or something, or hey, and Spirit, that's a good one for limiting beliefs. It's one of the most important things. Some people don't even know in self-improvement. But you look at it and you're like, oh man, like, what am I going to do? This happened. Oh no, I'll just, I'll forget about it. That's a story that you create for yourself. If you create a story that you can't do things, you're never going to be able to do things. And then you're going to be, why can't I do things? It's because you told yourself you can't. So what I do, and what my suggestion is, my challenge is, go create a new story of who you actually want to be. Do you want to be that person who's, complaining all the time, sad all the time? Or would you rather be the person that's learning all the time, growing all the time, and that has faced so much, but can look at that and be like, thank you for all that happening, and can push forward to have that perspective and to have that type of story? Is far more powerful than letting yourself fall to those negative patterns, limiting beliefs, and stories that people tell you or that you tell yourself. So I guess that's my one piece of advice. Create your own story. Because if you create your own story like, like anime protagonists do, then you're going to be the protagonist in your own life, dude. If you enjoyed this lecture, go ahead and subscribe. It's free. Literally, just click the button. And if you made it to the end, I truly appreciate your time to listen to what I had to say today. Write down if you made it this far in the comments, and I'll be sure to check it out. I'll see you in the next one.